all of the marvels of science and technology, all of the electronics and mechanical wonders, are just simply means of and lessons and principles in the lives of men. The reason we emphasize machines and technology is to free men and to find the meaning of their own existence and lives. We've got to get away from this limited, I did this and I did that, and the self-centeredness that dominates our society today. It must be a privilege to serve members of society. Not that we want rewards or medals or honor for what we do, because it is just an honor to do it. Americans have been conditioned in their kind of society to get a different kind of car next year, to buy a new television set or a tape recorder. We are radical as hell, but our political and social institutions have not changed. And this is where we are stagnating, because we always equate any new idea with communism or regimentation, because we've been brought up to fear that which is new. We've got to reorganize our way of thinking and reconsider our social aims. The entire money-structured and materialistic-oriented society is a false society. What kind of competition is there in your body? Suppose your brain said, I'm the most important organ, and the liver said, I am, and I want to go a free enterprise system. You'd rot away in a month if every organ of your body went out for itself. Your whole banking system is utterly corrupt. Your lending institutions have loused up the system, but there's nobody out there telling you what's wrong with it. So it looks okay to you. I'm not afraid of anybody. I don't work for anyone. I am afraid to live in the society we live in today. Our society cannot be maintained by this type of incompetency. It was great, the free enterprise system, about 35 years ago. That was the last of its usefulness. We have the brains, the know-how, the technology, and the feasibility to build an entirely new civilization.
Liebe Damen und Herren, ich darf Sie recht herzlich bei der dritten jährlichen Veranstaltung von ZDAY willkommen heißen. Das Team der Zeitgeistbewegung freut sich, Ihnen heute die Ideen des Venus-Projektes und der Ressourcenwirtschaft vorzustellen zu können. Messieurs, dames, bienvenue à ZDAY, notre réunion annuelle pour la discussion des idées du projet Vénus. Le mouvement Zeitgeist attend avec impatience de discuter de ces idées avec vous. Señoras y señores, bienvenidos a ZDAY, nuestra tercera reunión anual para la discusión de las ideas del proyecto Venus. Los miembros del movimiento Zeitgeist esperan con muchas ganas discutir nuestra ideológica con ustedes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to ZDAY. People who came about town from around the world, and the 1,000 or 2,000 people watching this online. We are from all over the world, and so I tried my best to include as many with my ramblings in various different languages as possible. I'd like to apologize for my terrible pronunciation. This is our third annual event, and there is really a one-word way of summing up why we're here. Japan. This kind of stuff can't carry on. We are in danger, and we have the ability to solve these problems, but we don't, and hence we are always in a reactive way of trying to fix society and going as it breaks down more and more. That's really one of the ways we can describe why we're here. Obviously, it is a much vaster and more broad understanding that we present for you today. A couple of things: turn off your mobiles. We love technology, but we don't want being interrupted by it. So do that, please. The hashtag for Twitter, if you want to ask questions or if you want to make anything or follow us or add us, is @ZDAY2011, all one word. That's what that is. Okay, just a quick description of what's coming up today. We are going to have this rambling opening, and then we're going to hear from two people. We are obviously a movement that is structured a bit differently, so we're starting off by showing you a little bit of the history, a little bit of where we are and where we're kind of based and what we do. Then after that we have the, so that was the UK, then we have the international one as well. Gilbert will be talking about that. There was a taxi about 1.5 years ago that drove around London covered with the Venus Project and had the Venus Project information in it. We've got Danny, who drove that cab here today to address you briefly. And then we've got the all-important translation team that translate all of our resources, all of our information into as many languages as we can so that everybody's can access it equally. So there's about a 20-minute discussion on how we do that. And then we've got Andrew Buxton with Venus Project Design doing half an hour on what those guys do to the various designs that Jacques Fresco and the Venus Project produce. Then there's going to be a break. All right, so there'll be a break, about half an hour, something like that. After that, we've got Joe Gosling, a student from Sheffield, I believe it is, talking about cultural assumptions. That'll be about 40 minutes. Peter is here obviously as well today, talking about arriving at the resource-based economy, and that's probably going to be about 45 minutes. Then another break for about half an hour, and then we have quite a lot in one go. We have Will Dixon talking about Activism 2.0. Jim Phillips has recently started something on specifically the education sector, which is a very interesting thing. I will speak to you, if you let me, about the innovation war. That's about 6:45, and Peter will close probably around 7:25, something like that. So that's what we have for you today. So next I'd like to call up Simon to discuss what's going on in the UK project. Simon.
Before I start testing, you'll hear me up as well? Everyone hear me okay? Cool. Okay, so I'd like to give you a brief overview of the UK chapter as it currently stands, and that will give you an idea of what we've done so far and what we plan to do in the future. So the UK chapter officially launched the UK chapter website officially launched in August 2009, and since then has gone from strength to strength. We initially started off with 3 main chapters in London, Bristol and Glasgow, and this quickly expanded to include Leeds, Birmingham, Manchester and Brighton. Sorry about that. In 2009 we had 2 big events in London which completely sold out. One was a lecture by Peter Joseph called Where Are We Now? And the other one was a double lecture by the Venus Project when Jacques and Roxanne visited the UK. Both of these events had a big impact and really helped the UK chapter grow, especially the London chapter. And since then, the growth rates continue to increase, resulting in a lot of interest in the movement, especially in London. 2010 was a very interesting year for the movement, and we had many different events in the UK. ZDAY in March last year was very successful, with 12 events across the UK. There was a large event in Bristol, which had 250 people attending, and the London event was sold out with about 400 people attending as well, and that helped start the UK lecture team. Since then, the UK lecture team has given many other lectures and talks at other events and discussion groups. We've also started giving presentations at schools, which you'll hear more about later on today. And we also had, as Ben mentioned, the Venus Project taxi driving around London for a year, which attracted a lot of attention from the public. August last year was a very active month as Jacques and Roxanne visited the UK during the Venus Project World Lecture Tour. 200 people attended the first lecture in Glasgow and 300 people attended the second lecture in Bristol. Both of these events proved to be very successful and people from all over the UK attended. In the same month we had our first annual UK chapter meeting in Bolton, which is a really good opportunity for all of the active UK members to meet each other in person and collaborate on projects. We hope to have these meetings every year at different locations, with presentations from each active chapter and workshops to teach members new skills so they can get involved. Many of the UK chapters have been doing regular information tours to help engage with the public about this direction. The North West England chapter, who are here today, have been the most active with information stalls, and they recently completed a successful tour of all the major towns and cities there. In London, we do an information stall every month, as well as a meeting every month and a documentary screening with a discussion. We have a lecture team for anyone who wants to do public speaking and lectures. A business project design team for architects, engineers, scientists, technicians, and anyone with CAD experience to help with the technical designs and architectural projects. And we're in the process of starting a PR team as well. So the best way to get involved with your local chapter is to attend the meetings and participate in any activities and events which they have scheduled. The recent launch of Zeitgeist Moving Forward in the UK was very successful, and we had 19 screenings in total during the official 10-day launch period in January. Some good turnouts, 110 people attending the Edinburgh screening, 110 at the Glasgow screening, 110 at the Chichester screening, 170 at the Belfast screening, 210 at the Cardiff screenings, and 430 at the London screenings. And this helped many of the new chapters get more active, the new members eager to participate. The launch was a good indication of how active the UK chapter is, as well as the rest of the chapters across the globe. So I've been helping to set up and organise the UK chapters for about a year and a half now, and I've seen it grow from 3 initial chapters at the start, all the way up to 20 active town and city chapters today. It's been constant growth over the last year, which has now increased since the launch of the new film. We will continue to organise major events throughout the years ahead, giving presentations and lectures to various audiences and groups across the UK. We have many events planned for the future, including a possible music festival in the summer in the West Midlands and our annual UK chapter meetings once a year. All of the upcoming meetings and events in London are listed on the Meetup group and on the events page of the UK chapter website as well. And we also have online UK meetings every Monday at 9 PM, where all of the UK chapters meet to keep updated, discuss important topics, and organise future events. The next step is to focus more on workshops and training at future events, to give members new relevant skills so they can participate more and help with the transition into a resource-based economy, which of course is our aim. So this could be anything from video editing, computer-aided design, hydroponics, permaculture, getting off the grid, or any other skills that are relevant. We also have plans to set up Zeitgeist societies in multiple universities across the UK, including Plymouth and Leeds. So that's a really brief summary of the UK chapter, and I'll now hand over to Gilbert, who will give you more of an international perspective of the movement. Thank you. Test.
All right, we're all set up. So, how's everybody doing? You all right? I'm glad everybody came out today. Last year I flew to New York, and it's an 11-hour flight, which is quite messed up if you're from Amsterdam. And then on the Z-Day, it started to rain, which was a little bit of a disappointment because everybody came out, and when they got into the room, everybody was soaked. So that wasn't very, well, accommodating, if you will. But today it's quite dry, so I'm happy about the weather. I like London. I've been touring around a bit. I've never been here before. I arrived on Friday, and I like dancing, so I went out and had some salsa dancing with some London girls. It was good. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that today, so let's get down to business. First off, I'd like to thank the UK team, in particular London, of course. I've had the pleasure of meeting them yesterday because we had the screening, and I saw how good they work together. It's like that all around the world, but the London team is one of our most established chapters, if you will. Sorry, I sound a bit shaky because it's quite scary. But, so forgive me for that. But yeah, the London team, they work together really well. I think it's a very good example. So, I don't know, you can clap with me if you want, but I just want to thank London. So for those of you that missed it and think who the heck is this guy, my name is Gilbert. I coordinate the international chapters, which means that basically I'm a background guy. What I do is I make sure that every chapter around the globe is accommodated and make sure that they are able to do their activism correctly. We have international meetings, which occur online, obviously, because we can't all physically meet on a physical location. At these meetings, we discuss what we're going to do as a movement, what would be good ideas, what would be bad ideas, organizational processes that need to be cleared out. That's stuff that we all already do. I'm going to talk about it a bit later in a few more slides, because there's this idea that this movement is not getting organized, which is total, never mind the word, but we're doing quite a lot to get organized. And I hope that today I'll be able to paint a picture so that you, as an activist, as a member, supporter, or just somebody who's interested in this movement, has an idea about how this movement is getting structured right now. Alright, let's see. I'm going to talk about the organization, the Zeitgeist movement, like I just said. We're going to review some accomplishments and some goals that we've set for this year. I want to talk a bit about public relations and the media circus, because as we're growing, we're getting exposed to quite a lot of ridicule and a lot of other interesting articles. Samuel Gillonis, I don't know who read that one, but it was interesting to say the least. And I want to talk a bit about the faces of the movement. I don't know if I spelled that right. Is that all right? Yeah. English is not my first language, so I'm just checking. All right. So when we talk about ZM, Zeitgeist movement, as an organization, we can divide what we have now into several parts. We have the chapters and the chapters administration. So that's what I'm part of, the chapters administration, who make sure that what is happening in these countries is regulated well, not in a restrictive manner, but purely informational, making sure the right information is being put out. Because we are an open movement, but to some degree, we do need to control the information that gets put out, because we have a specific idea that we represent. We want to make sure that it's the right one that gets out, and it doesn't get twisted in the wrong way, as unfortunately it does happen sometimes. Then we have the most important linguistic team. If we didn't have these people, the Zeitgeist movement would be nothing. Why? Because there are so many different languages, so many different ways of interpreting words. And without these people, we would be nowhere. With the Zeitgeist Moving Forward release, they put in a tremendous amount of effort just to get everything translated within like 2 weeks. And you know how much difference? Then we have a development developers team. It's not really a concrete team yet, but we have people working on back-end stuff, which means if you're not a computer user, the stuff that needs to be coded into websites, into database systems, everything like that. And that's very important as well, because not everybody that we have in the movement right now knows how to do these things. I actually have people now in Kenya who want to start a chapter, but they don't have the resources or the knowledge right now to put up a website. And that's why we have such a team, so they can help these people set up a chapter in their area. So I'm very happy that we have those people too. We have the media project. I don't know if you're familiar with that. We're starting off right now with a media festival as well, so we can use all sorts of media in order to promote the movement and this direction. And let's see. We have the technology team, which is not a very concrete team yet, but they're working on some projects. I don't know, is anybody here familiar with the website ZDAY.org? All right. So this is basically a website. It's their first project, which keeps track of all sorts of technological developments that are occurring worldwide in order to support what we're promoting, just to show that a lot is possible already. I don't know if anybody's familiar with IBM. They're doing doing surveys, Google with the car. All that stuff gets posted on that website as a global hub for that sort of information. And of course, we're all the communications team. We don't have a specific group of people that form the communications team because we're all responsible for communicating this message to the outside. So that's you, the communications team. I also get asked quite a lot, like, Gilbert, what should we do? We formed a chapter and now we're just going to sit on our ass and say, we are a ZDAY chapter. What can we do? Well, first of all, of course, it's most important that you come up with your own ideas. But I want to show you today how simple it can be to perform activism for the ZDAY movement in a very, very peaceful way. I'm going to not pray while you know what I mean? I hope this works. There we go.
What would you do with your time? When it didn't exist, when it didn't exist, and you guys have to work. And they started up living this time for everyone all over the world.
I would stand right here and fish my fish.
Now I'm spending as much time as I possibly can with my daughter.
Travel? I don't know.
Coming here for the week. Enjoy my friends.
If I didn't have to worry about money, I might work and work fewer hours. Because I enjoy what I do.
I know a guy that's got a lot to lose. He's a bloody nice fella. He can kind of confused. He's got muscles in his head, never been used. He thinks he's gonna die in this town.
Let's say if you had a chance to change the world for the better, would you?
If I had a chance,
Would you?
Yes.
Yes? And if you had a chance to change the world for the better, would you? Definitely, would you? All right. Everybody said
housing for everybody would be.
I mean, that'd be awesome.
That's the way the world goes round. Well, I was sitting in the bathtub, counting the toes when the radiator broke. The water overflows, I got stuck in the ice. Now I'm closed, naked as the eyes were found.
Thank you.
That's for free. That's yours.
And then,
I'm gonna give it to you.
beyond politics, beyond poverty, I don't have my glasses on, beyond work. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
It's just more information. It's up to
Just
you.
not go dirty dancing on that.
One day, next to down, it's out, big water, they gonna drown. That's the way the world goes round.
Can you imagine a world without God?
Yeah.
How would it look?
Everybody living as one, just living in the present, here and now. Not worrying about the future and not tripping on the past.
All right. Now, I'm not suggesting you all go sit with a guitar and sing, but I mean, that's just a very simple example of what you can do. Just go out and talk to people. talk about what could change in this world and plant seeds, if you will, just for them to be able to think in a new direction, because a lot of the times you encounter people and when you're exposed to this material, you come off very strong, like you should understand this, you should understand that, but sometimes it takes much longer for people to be able to think this way because we've all been conditioned quite hard into a certain way of thinking. So go easy on them, like those guys. All right, we're gonna move on though. I don't have much time. Let's see. This is a blinking map. I was going to get them, sorry, the images separate, but I didn't manage to. So it's going to keep blinking like the lights here in the city. We were confused. I was with my friend and we're in the taxi, and you have these crossing lights and this yellow light blinking. We're like, what the hell is that? Anyway, so this is a map showing Z-Days recorded for chapters. There were more Z-Days, but recorded chapter Z-Days in 2009 and 2010, and you can see how that has grown. And then we move on. This one doesn't blink, luckily. This is 2011. I got the image this morning, and this is the amount of events that we have worldwide. And you know what? I'm surprised, because with all the effort that we put in for the ZDAY Moving Forward release, I was expecting this map to be less crowded, but still we did an excellent job. I don't have the accurate count, but it's somewhere near 240 events, so I guess that's quite a decent number for just the small period we had in order to get this set up. All right, so like I mentioned, last year I was in New York, and I told the crowd there, I was happy because when I started being active for the movement, there were 7 chapters. And after just a short while, in March 2010, we had 250 chapters worldwide. I said then, like, well, next year we'll have the whole world. That was the original, I know. But I was happy. I said, we're gonna do this. But still, after a year of very hard work, I'm glad to say that we now have more than 1,000 chapters worldwide. Obviously, these aren't all national chapters. We don't even have that many countries, but we have different layers of chapter organization. So just so you understand where these chapters are located at, we have the continental level, which aren't actual chapters, but in reference to the chapters administration that I mentioned, this is the level of organization that we use in order to coordinate activism on a continental scale, such as Europe, America. Then we have the national chapters, obviously the country chapters, the UK chapter, which is hosting this right now. We have the state and provincial chapters, wherever that's needed. In places like America, the state is an important entity in organization. Oh, sorry, I forgot the word, but I figured you get what I mean. Anyway, the state is more important there than it is here in the European countries. We have the cities, obviously, like the London chapter here, on the most local level, actually, that we can be active at. And that's also a layer of chapter organization. And as Simon mentioned, we also have college and university chapters getting set up in order to make sure we get people at these universities who are now in the process of, in a time in their life that they allow a lot of information to be considered. So that's also a very important one to consider for us as activists. All right, some goals that we have lined up for this year. Absolutely, chapters in Africa and Asia. Let's pick up the list here. It's not working, never mind. I'll do it out of the top of my head then. We've got quite a few interesting chapters lined up to get started up, some of which I never had dreamed of being able to see messages coming from. We have chapters in Bahrain starting up, like I mentioned, Kenya, Nigeria, places that are very limited in terms of internet access. So I think that is one of the goals for this year, making sure they get set up, we get more foothold in Asia, make sure our translation team is able to also provide them the materials so that they also can get a grasp of what a resource-based economy actually is. This is more for the people that are involved with the movement. cooperation with the other teams, making sure everything goes smooth, is also on the list for the chapters this day. Improve internal communication, making sure information flow between chapters is going more fluently, and this will be tested, of course, once we get more projects executed like World Hunger Solved, which I presented last year. Obviously, and to my disappointment, we haven't been able to put it up yet, but hopefully this year we'll be able to. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about PR. I'm going to go a bit faster than I would have wanted to, so we can keep a good time span. Professional language. When we're advocating the movement, I spoke a bit in the beginning about coming on too strong to people. Terms like Venus Project, Zeitgeist Movement are probably not the best ones to use in a first conversation that you're having with somebody. Resource-based economy is, to a certain degree, but we have to make sure that we're considering the other person as well. Because when you talk to somebody and you say, I support the Venus Project, they don't have a fucking clue what you're talking about. They don't know. So it's probably something to consider referring to later. Get it started easy. Make sure you talk about the values that are associated with this society. Talk about what's wrong, what could be better. Also refer to things that are quite good right now. You don't have to be negative all the time. But make sure that you think about it before you start such a conversation, because you might come off way too strong, and we don't want that happening. It won't help us. The you should understand it or you're stupid rule. That's also a very important one, because I talk to a lot of members due to my duties for the movement, and sometimes they come and ask me like, Gil, how do they understand it? And they're stupid because they don't understand it. And it doesn't help us if you have such a disposition. Just be calm and make sure that you pass on the information that you want to pass on. And if they don't get it at that point in time, you've put the effort in. And that's it. Move on to the next person. There are 7 billion people on this planet. You probably could skip one. It's all right. We'll also encounter different types of publicity. Intended publicity, like today. ZDAY, we tried our best to communicate with a lot of media outlets. This is intended publicity because we intended it to be public. So that's good. Well, we also have incidental and accidental publicity. I don't even know if that's a correct way of saying it, but I just made it up. You know, sometimes the stuff will happen, like the Jared Loughner incident. Anybody familiar with that? That was not so fun, but anyway, it will get related in negative ways without expecting it. And I hope everybody understands that this is just a natural progression of this movement. It'll just happen, and we'll just have to stay calm. And for those that don't understand what I mean by that incidental, accidental publicity, it's something like this. I don't know if it's legal in this country, but you know, accidents happen. It does. We'll also encounter provocation, like we're being provoked. Is that a correct word, provocation? I'm doing better. All right. Like these ones, we'll get the communism, socialism arguments, ad hominem attacks on a person, like you stupid Zeitard. That's a word, Zeitard. But don't let it get to you. I mean, it will happen. And of course, organizational ridicule. Will be ridiculed as that Marxist group, that communist group. Let it go. It'll pass in time. All right. I'm sorry about that, Tom. I'm hurrying. All right. The faces. I hear members talking about this also. Like, yeah, and then we have phase 1 and phase 2. And the other day, a guy told me, you know, Gilbert, I'm not going to get active till phase 2. I'm going to wait phase 1 out. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? sorry, Paul, like, if there's any small children, I'm sorry that this even came up, this faces thingy. It's not relevant. You know what's relevant for us? This, phase 1. Oh, it's not, yes, it's working. Awareness. That's the task of the Zeitgeist movement. Communication. Making sure we get the message out. We're not out there to build cities. This has been reiterated so many times. We're about communicating this message. The rest of the phase is irrelevant. Don't want to hear about it. Anyone. All right, just to finish it up, really quickly, I'd like to invite some people on the stage. Federico Pistono, our Italian coordinator. The EU coordinator, Rico from Rivera. And Frankie from Germany. Because I've been standing here like talking as if I'm doing this by myself. Obviously I'm not. These are great people. They spend their time coordinating their countries. They're doing a lot of work. So, guys, could you really briefly just say how you've been experiencing activism in the movement so far? 30 seconds each. I'm going to rush you. Thank you.
Okay, try to be brief. Hello, everybody. I'm Federico from Italy, and I started to coordinate about a year and a half ago the Italian chapter. It's been a great adventure, and it still is. And I just want to tell you one thing in my 30 seconds, which is you need to have fun. Okay, if you're not having fun, it's not worth saving the world. We have to enjoy it. Otherwise, we can.
Hello, my name is Mato. I'm the European Chapters Coordinator. I also coordinate a chapter in my city in Slovakia. The name of the city is Nitra. And from my experience, the beginnings are always very hard. When you're starting a chapter, starting like in coordination, so when we're still young, so we have a lot to do on all levels, I guess. And unless a lot of people realize how hard they need to work, and shouldn't take things for granted, we won't see much change, I guess. So, thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Miguel Oliveira, I coordinate the Portugal chapter. Just wanted to say in my 30 seconds that it's very important to not only have fun, but actually accomplish stuff while having fun, because that's really art. People often forget to really organize things, but it's possible to have fun and organized, and something that we all should do, because when we look back, we see that we accomplished great things like our progression so far. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Frankie, trying to coordinate the German-speaking chapters. I'd like to welcome everybody here that you show up. It's good to see that this movement is not just an online phenomenon, so let's work together and get this in the offline world. And there's a quote in Germany that says, much learning does not teach us understanding. And also Einstein said, every fool can know, but the point is to understand. So let's try to work on this more and more. We own the process, we all took the red pill and everything. So let's try to achieve a world without poverty, politics, and war. And glad that you all made it.
So, thank you very much. If you have any questions about chapters in the breaks, just hit me up. We'll talk about it. If you want to start a chapter in your local area, send me an email, gilbert@thezeitgeistmovement.com. I'll let you know. If you want to dance salsa, I'm outside, so please do. Thank you.
Danny. Thanks, Gilbert, for a great presentation, and thanks to all the international guys. You can see we're becoming a truly global organisation now. We're slowly growing and becoming more effective worldwide. The one thing about this organisation is that it's the people that you meet in it, amazing people that you meet in it. I mean, 2 years ago when I met this guy, he was a borderline simpleton. Now he's addressing people in different languages. Anyway, now one of the most interesting people I've met since I joined this movement is going to talk to you about, well, I was going to do this, but he bullied me out and, you know, he's great. Anyway, Danny is our cab driver. He drove the Venus Project cab driver, but he's Anyway, Danny's going to talk about why he's here today, okay? Danny Bedford.
With hindsight, science might dictate it's better to wait until you sort of see it any good before you clap, but thanks a lot. Anyway, I appreciate it a great deal. Some of you I would have spoken to before our guest at the ZDAY last year, and others might have seen various bits and pieces on the internet, I have no idea. But thanks all for coming, and you all seem to be very much supportive of it. The Zeitgeist Movement, Venus Project, from what I can hear of the clapping, etc., from the previous speakers. Something that Gil was saying that I thought was very interesting. He comes from a country which is only separated from us here by water, and he comes from Holland. And yet he hasn't got a clue how to cross the road yet, safely. I don't think that's really his fault. I think that's probably something to do with more the way he was conditioned growing up as to how the light should work, yeah? I think that having seen, I am digressing here, from the very beginning, not good probably, but still. It would occur to me that really, if we want to keep the people on the planet safe, then having a sort of standardised road crossing light thing wouldn't seem like a bad idea yet. I don't see anyone working towards it. And every day I see lots of accidents, especially with people from other parts of the world visiting here in London, looking the wrong way because where they come from, the cars drive on the other side, etc. So it seems to me that from what we view and what we understand from watching the Zeitgeist films, etc., that there does seem to be a problem with the way the planet's organised, in that if someone comes from somewhere that's not very far away, you would expect that they should be able to know how to cross the road without getting run over. Never mind. I hope that those of you that are on Twitter are busy tweeting away about the things you're hearing, and don't forget the hashtag is ZDAY2011. Last night I watched a few of the anti-Venus Project videos on YouTube, and just wanted to clarify a couple of things for you before I go on. One is that I can assure you I have no intention of stealing any of your land. And secondly, I'm not attempting to mind control you in any way. I'm also not trying to sell you anything. I just wanted to explain to you how I came to be standing here today and about my views about the political system as I've seen it since birth. In addition, on these videos, apart from the anti-Venus Project Zeitgeist videos that you see on YouTube, the idea of forcing people to do things comes up quite often. I think it's not a question of anyone necessarily that is going to be forced to do anything in the future. As in, I think that there may well come a point where the Venus Project type system will be the only realistic option in the event of a major financial crisis involving the collapse of major world economies due to an overload of bad news, for example, which does seem to affect market prices quite significantly. Thanks for all coming along, and I'm going to give you my ideas and reasons why I'm here, along with my views as to why the Venus Project, stroke zeitgeist movement philosophies are worth exploring, in my opinion, and I hope you enjoy my little story. I was born in 1969 in Richmond Hill in North London, and I've been exposed to politics very strongly from a young age, as I have a brother who's very politically active and has been, ever since I can remember, on the left side of the political spectrum. At one point he's been a member of the Communist Party, and he was involved in factory strikes and union stuff in the 1970s, etc. And so from a young age, I've been exposed to politics in the household, and I've tried to grasp it in some sense, because obviously political decisions affect our lives. I've tried to analyse the political, social and economic implications of the world as I see it. As I was growing up, electronic technology was just starting to become very widely available. The way that it affected me, I guess, as a sort of someone that was under 10, for example, in the 1970s, was that it meant we started to see computer games and arcades, Space Invaders, Asteroids, etc. was the way that I saw technology. That was what appealed to me, instead of these boring board games that maybe I didn't brought up on from, say, age 3 or 4. As I became 5, 6, 7, computer games started to come out, and it seemed to be more fun, more interesting. It seemed to do more, it seemed to be the way the world was going. That's the way I saw the technology as a young child, but also businesses saw it differently, and they started to use the technology in the way they produced, manufactured and sold goods and services. As a young child, I remember seeing a TV advert for Fiat cars, ironically enough, who were now using robots to build cars. And I asked my mum what jobs people would do in the future if machines would be doing the jobs that people used to do. And she didn't seem to really know. It sort of now seems to be that it turns out that many of those people would be doing jobs that have been invented since, or be unemployed. Politics left and right, the way I've seen it. The Second World War was something I started to learn about at a very young age, as both my parents had been young children living in London when it started. And in the days when I first started to watch television, with only 3 TV channels, old war films were commonplace. It was then that I started to learn about the Nazis and their style of government, which appeared to me to be of little benefit to the world as a whole. So if this extreme right position was so awful, then surely extreme left must have been better. So I asked questions, and I found out that this was not really the case, as both the extreme left and right, as perceived, both seem to have issues with treating people fairly in terms of economic and so therefore social equality. It then occurred to me that the political system, the way it is now around the world, could be purely about governments attempting to control lay classes of their population. The ways they do this, race, religion, money, any difference between people will be used to reinforce the control, in my opinion. The idea that left-right politics is used for the benefit of the population of this planet, or indeed the planet itself, I would consider laughable. I would assume that most people would agree, as the world's problems are getting bigger every day. So basically, every so often we have an election. How I see it is that, for all intents and purposes, we're presented with 2 sides to choose from, the left or the right. And people choose one and think that their choice is the right one. For now, we will assume that we're discussing parts of the world where elections take place. To that extent, history has shown us that people are willing to fight and even die for their political ideology, which is usually a brand of freedom, depending on the lottery of where you were born, or your perceived country. The two are often used together as a sort of psychological pincer movement. Career politicians sometimes change side. And I imagine that this helps to reinforce in most people's minds that there is a discernible difference between the two sides. The reality, as I see it, is far different, and I propose that both left and right are merely smokescreens to distract from the true agenda, which is the furthering and advancement of population control. In the case of countries with elections, this process is almost self-fulfilling, in that this democracy is then used against the population in a sort of, well, you chose it. It's called freedom and choice, and you should be grateful. In fact, I read on Twitter recently, politics doesn't work as left versus right. It works as top versus bottom. The reality is that whether you have like or choose left or right, ultimately all that will happen is that as time progresses, there will be more control from the government, regardless of their political ideology. Then, when the next election takes place, people choose the government and it all starts all over again. And of course the government is primarily concerned with how the money of the country is distributed. What is money? Well, it used to be gold, but of course... I am actually stuck. What is money? Well, it used to be gold, but of course as the money system needs to grow, as all money is now created from there, as time progressed it was changed into paper, and now it's not even paper, just a figure on a computer screen. Problems that can arise from the monetary system really are self-interest from everyone, everywhere, as a result of the financial slavery that ensues, as a result of the monetary system in place across the planet. Plus the fact that now money is not backed up by any precious metal, it is simply printed paper, stroke figure on a screen, coupled with the fact that electronic money itself, being moved around the world, has become one of the planet's largest industries. The fact that bank bailouts of the last few years are just a sticking plaster on one of the branches of the tree of capitalism, when the way I see it, the whole tree itself is diseased. This was the view I had at primary school and secondary school, and it's the view I still have. Subjects that I was very much interested in at school were history, geography, politics, sociology, maths, and all of the sciences. And when I left school, I didn't go to college or to university to study academic subjects. I studied vocational subjects. But I've always had a great interest in philosophy, and I've read many philosophy books over the years, various types. I've also been very politically active since I was about 16 or so, I guess, going to most of the major demos, protests around the country to do with anti-capitalism, and I was also at the poll tax demo 1990 or whenever it was. So I've always been interested in politics. I think that's the point I'm trying to make here. And I had various jobs, most of which actually I was forced to leave because of technology, if you like. So I was myself a victim, I suppose, of the monetary system and the way it decided to change the way things were going to be made. My very first job from leaving school was as an antique furniture restorer. My parents were antique dealers. I had a sort of interest in the subject, if you like. And I worked as an antique furniture restorer for a couple of years since leaving school. But then the business went down the toilet, as it were, because people were moving away from buying traditional furniture, if you like, for their households, and were moving more towards the sort of flat pack culture and the IKEA type and the Habitat type and whatever. They weren't having their furniture restored in the same numbers, so there wasn't so much of a demand for our services, and so the business went bankrupt, basically. Having had a few jobs, I then decided to do the London knowledge to become a taxi driver in London. And this is how I later came to become involved with the Venus Project and the Zeitgeist movement. As one day 2 years ago, after I'd already seen the Zeitgeist addendum film online, I got a phone call from an advertising company asking me if I wanted to have the Venus Project advert on my taxi. And I said yes. I got to meet Jack and Roxanne a few times when they were in London, and I've driven them around to various meetings, etc. And I've also met some great people via the Zeitgeist movement over the last 2 years.